Go. Okay. Here we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this Lunch and Ask with Dave and Travis. We're excited to be here. Apologies for 2 weeks ago. We had a weird Zoom thing that I've since tracked down, and I'm back on track for that. If you are watching this live, I'll be watching the Facebook group, and you can put in questions there. If you're watching the recording, I'm Travis Allison from Go Camp Pro. Excited to be partnered with Dave from the Sherry Group, Dave Sherry from the Sherry Group, on this every 2 weeks Lunch and Ask over lunch for just half an hour. Today, we thought we would like to speak about arrival days, specifically talking about what it means for staff on their very first arrival day. It's going to be an even more exciting summer for that, since the majority of camps and the majority of camp staffs won't have been at camp last year. So there's going to be some interesting dynamics around all that. But there are lots of patterns, I think, Dave, that we can talk about from kind of a normal summer, what people are expecting, and then apply that to the summer and some other creative ideas as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the first day staff come on camp is always so exciting for us as directors, right? That's so much energy and excitement, and but it's important to think about how that is being interpreted, or what the feelings are of the staff when they show up for that first day. And I think you can break that into different groups. Returning staff are so excited to get back to camp and see their friends and get things going. You've got kids who've come up through your leadership development program, have been campers for years, and this is their first time on staff, and they're excited, but they're also nervous. All of a sudden, people they were looking up to as their leaders a year ago are now going to be their peers, and there's kind of a strange feeling. And then there's that new person that you just hired that doesn't have any experience with your camp, that is coming in, and also you'd like to think they're excited, but they're probably pretty nervous about what they're stepping into. And so a lot of different emotions going on as people come in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think camps that have a super high level of intentionality are really strategic about this day. But I think it's also a day that sets the tone for the summer. So those who haven't put a lot of thought into this day, this can be kind of messy, lonely for those new people. It can be lots of different things. And so totally a great topic to think about today, is lots of camps are getting ready to welcome their staff in the next few weeks. And definitely over the next 6 weeks, it's going to be a wave of staff arriving at camp. What are some of the best things you've seen, Dave, for staff arrival day?
Well, I think first of all, you need to accept the fact that staff person showing up, that especially that new first timer showing up, their first impression and the feelings of acceptance that they get right off the bat has a huge impact on whether or not they'll even stay.
Agreed.
And and this year in particular, when so many camps are struggling finding staff, we want to make sure that we keep everyone that starts staff training. And so I think it starts even before. I think some of the things I've seen that have really been effective is it starts even before that day. It's having some sort of a social media page where set up where all staff, whether you're returning or new, can get connected on that page, and asking your staff to, so whether that's a Facebook, members only sort of page, and asking returning staff to start a thread in there about introducing who they are, and asking them not to focus on how long they've been at camp, but more so on who they are and why they're excited about camp and where they're going to school, and trying to get all the staff to interact in that way, asking some fun camp questions in that group to get people talking. But I also think anything that you can do to get them engaged before they
Yeah.
even show up that first day,
Yeah.
I think is big. And so that could be a Zoom call with all the new staff, or that could be asking a couple of returning staff to take on the role of reaching out and calling these people and Snapchatting with them for a couple of weeks, or connecting with them on the phone, or if they're going to the same schools, getting together with them at school and grabbing a coffee. But I would say that that's really where some of the stronger programs that I've seen that I really look up to really start that process before the check-in day even starts.
100%. 100%. I am fond of saying, and try to say it as many places as I can, this is my rule for campers. And to me, it's the same rule for staff as well. People who are new to camp should arrive at camp on the first day knowing one person by name. So whether it is the staff supervisor, they can recognize their face, they can call them by name, and that's reciprocal, that's the supervisor or the director, depending on the size of your staff, can name, and welcome that person. Classic Dale Carnegie lesson that the most wonderful sound in the world is the sound of your own name, because it makes you feel that welcome that Dave was talking about. So they should know someone by name, and they should know how to do one thing that happens on the first day. So often for campers, to me, that's a chant or a song that will happen every opening day, so that a new kid, can, go along with all of the strange stuff that's going on, or a new staff member can be there with all the excitement and, new location and not knowing where the bathrooms are. But, one moment happens in a day, they're like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is a thing that I can join in on. So often a chant or a cheer or a song or a tradition, some camps it might be a dance, could be lots of different things, but one thing, so that you get to that moment in the day, you're like, okay, I'm not going to stand out in this moment because I can do this thing. And this comes from my own experience as a kid, where in prep for me going to camp for the first time, I went to the camp that my mom and my uncles and my grandparents went to. In prep for this, my mom taught me Johnny Appleseed. And when that happened, first afternoon swim tests and cabin mates and, funny smelling buildings that we were sleeping in and picking the wrong bunk. But at dinner, there's this moment of like, I can join in. Here's a thing that I can do to sign in and be a part of the thing. And it was just a place, just give me that moment of, okay, I can belong here.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that's great advice. Wonderful advice. Another thing that I would share is that maybe one of the things that a lot of camps do that they could improve upon is understanding that knowledge is power, right? Or knowledge makes you comfortable. And so, camp staff training can be challenging because your schedule needs to be somewhat fluid. I don't know of a single camp that has ever stayed 100% on track with staff training schedule, right? Things happen, things came up, you switch things around, you make it work. But when staff are showing up, especially for the first time, and they don't know what the day is going to look like, what the agenda is for the next few days, they're just coming in blind. They don't have information, and they don't have that knowledge or that information that makes them feel comfortable.
Yep.
And so another simple thing, and I think this goes to your maybe a little parallel with your idea of one thing that they should know, one thing that's going to happen that day, is I love it when they get the staff training schedule in advance. And a lot of camps aren't doing that. A lot of those camp directors keep that staff training schedule. Nobody ever really sees it. They just announce it as they go throughout the day because they know they have to be flexible, but make sure they at least have the schedule for the first day, so they know what they're doing and they're coming in a little prepared for that.
Yeah. I'd ask you about some of the best things you'd seen, and friends of ours here in Canada, Camp Warren, Quebec, who I use as examples for everything because they're one of the most intentional and welcoming and thoughtful camp programs I know. They have their opening day for campers and their opening the welcome day for staff set up differently so that for them, depending on the year, and I don't know what the procedure will be this year, but they have brought returning staff in the day before new staff, so that returning staff can get the, just the super high excitement. Great to be back at camp with each other. We're really excited for this summer. We've been waiting for this for so long. That thing that is incredibly important to what camp is, but can be off-putting to somebody who's new, they get that over with. And then, they have a few hours of that. And then they spend the next half a day preparing for how do we welcome new people? How do we make them feel welcome? So we've had our moment together. Now we, like all good camp people, we turn our attention back out to others. And I thought just that level of intention is so amazing. And they do the same thing with campers. They bring in campers, returning campers, a couple of hours before new campers so that they can get that out of the way. Then they can, shift to, now it's our job to be a place of welcome. And they really, really focus on that, really intentional about that with their campers and staff. And I thought that's just like, that sets the tone for an entire summer. If you can be that thoughtful, you are showing. Another thing I say all the time is that the camp leaders need to understand that they're always teaching. And when you are that intentional about welcome, then you're teaching something to the people who are new to camp.
Well, I think what makes that so great is that that's focused on giving both groups what they need, not to separate right away by any means, but the return campers, the return staff, they want to give their hugs and they want to hang out with their friends that they've seen, and they want to swap stories, and when they're doing that in front of the new staff, that immediately creates a division. And so you're giving them what they need by doing that. We didn't do a full day. We had a cookout at the camp director's house for the return staff, but I like the idea of even giving it more time and then turning the attention towards how do we prepare to be welcoming. But those return staff deserve that. They deserve the chance to get together and be social and have that time. And the new staff coming in deserve to not have that be happening right in front of them because it makes them feel that much more awkward.
Of course.
So I love that. I love that idea an awful lot. I've never heard of anybody doing that with campers before. That's really interesting. I love that idea too.
Yeah, and it's had a markedly positive experience on their camp culture because it sets up the first day so well for new campers. And it means the retention rates are incredibly high too, because they're that thoughtful about all the moments at camp.
So first day of staff training, the excitement's in the air. People are starting to show up. How do you greet them?
Yeah, amazing. When we were directing, we greeted all staff exactly the same way campers would be greeted. So they would, from the inside, see what that first day experience procedure looks like. So it would mean that there'd be a number of senior staff who had arrived earlier and had their own training, and then they would be there to do greetings with staff as they came in. So because everything's kind of new and hard to remember, I think one of the great lessons of running any camp staff training is that you have to repeat the lessons because there's so much to absorb in staff training, but run them through a typical arrival, like a camper opening day. And then again, when it's getting closer to the actual opening day, run through it again. So they'd be like, oh, that's why they did it this way. So when we were doing it, we had one of the directors meet the car, the vehicle, and just check in the people, say hello to them, welcome to them if they were new, and just make sure that they were noticed as soon as they got on the property. I think that act of being noticed is so important.
It is, and I think that it's easy to just assume that everybody knows where to go. And so if we've got time, we may talk about check-in of campers here, but we have people we had a big hill that you would come down, and as soon as you enter camp, there would be someone there waving and greeting you and giving you directions to the next person. just
Yep.
follow this road, you'll see somebody right down there. And so that literally from the second they go through the gates of camp, they're being directed. So the guesswork and the nerves that are being removed. And everybody is instructed to be welcoming and high energy and positive and excited to see them. And they're guided, right? So it removes some of that, where do I go fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And treated as if they're the important people that they are from the minute they get into the gate.
Yep.
It's
I totally.
great.
Yeah. I think another thing that's incredibly important in any of those conversations along the route that they're coming in is, here's where the next step, here's the next person that I'm going to hand you off to, so you can look for this person. But I think also those messages, it's worth making sure that you say stuff like, and if you need the washroom, here's how you get to the washroom. Like, just like think about people's real needs. Whoever's dropping you off, mom and dad's, guardians, friends, there's tea and coffee and juice out there, and have a cookie before you need to get on the road. Whatever it is, some of those procedures may be different in some camps this summer, but make sure that the welcome extends to everybody who's in the car, and you're looking after their very basic needs, because again, that teaches them something about what your camp is like.
I'll tell you a change that we made. I had a change in philosophy that worked really well for us for years. Then once everybody was checked in, we would start right away with big games. And the idea was the icebreaker games and the get to know you games. But what we found with that was that people would be tentative, and they would be almost reserved a little bit. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. And so power's back on at our house.
Right.
So we what we saw though is that they were still being tentative, even though those games were new and were meant to introduce people. So what we would do is we started with an introduction that was a little quieter. We bring them into a room. We'd have them not sit in classroom style, but just sort of sit circled up, or in, I would call it blob style, and just have a heartfelt, you are important to us. We're so excited you're here. We're going to be playing games in a little bit, but we want to tell you a little bit about who we are, and that we're here to not only train you, but help take care of you. And just sort of that introduction. And what we found is, even if we just took 20 to 30 minutes to have that heartfelt sit down, other than throwing them straight out in the games, it helped ease some of that anxiety that they would have.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, because I am exactly the same thing happened to my philosophy of that first day too, Dave. I'm an extrovert who loves that stuff, and I love playing games, and all that stuff is stuff that I was drawn to as a young staff member as well. But I realized that doesn't take into account the needs of everybody. And if we can start slower, get people introduced who are more introverted, get them a little bit more comfortable, then when they're in a comfortable place, it's much more easy for them to get involved in the big, loud name games and doing stuff like that. And I agree, it's an awesome intention to start camp with, when you think how, through everybody's needs and just build up to everything. It's always one of my great frustrations. Bethany used to talk about this all the time, that if we could get all staff to arrive at the exact same time, that would be much easier for everybody. It's just not possible for anybody who's driving any distances. Maybe possible if your staff is really local to you, that you could say, you need to be here at 5 to 10 because we're starting at 10. Even then, you're going to have people who come a little early and a little late, but a good beginning is so important.
Yeah, and then to bookend that, the end of that day is, I think, one of the most important parts of staff training. So you've got people showing up at the beginning of the day. You get into all of your first day staff training, whatever that's designed to look like. But I think the way that you wrap up that first day really is big. And I learned that lesson the hard way over the years. You'd finish training and then send them off to bed. And then occasionally you wake up in the morning and there'd be one or two less staff there that just weren't comfortable and went home. And so you learn the hard way that we obviously failed those people and didn't make them feel welcome enough. And so we would focus on a campfire that night. We would teach some camp songs and do just some of the camp skits and those sorts of things. But it would be just the staff sitting all the way around a campfire, and it would also allowed a lot of time for just talk and discussion and getting to know each other. And we'd have some snacks there, and it was kind of a quiet end of the day. And by then you kind of have an idea as a director as to who is struggling connecting and who's not, and it allows you to go pull up a piece of grass next to them and sit down and visit with those people and try to connect with them. And I think it puts a nice cap on the day,
Yeah, totally.
Other than sending them off to fend for themselves.
Yep. Yeah. And even if you can get to a point where, in evenings can be like that, I agree that first day gets programmed, start to sleep. And then you're sure that folks fit in. One other thing I did when I was directing is I would keep a staff checklist in my pocket, and I would make sure that every week I had even just 30 or 60 seconds with every staff member, just a little check-in with them. And we had 72 staff members at the height of it, and it was a lot of work. And it was natural to run into some and not others, but I think that same in the first day, like a check-in from the directors or senior leaders, just a quiet moment. You both happen to be walking to the bathroom at the same time, just like, how's it going? How are you feeling? Any questions so far? Anything I can do to help goes such a long way to making them feel welcome and really commit to the community that you're creating at camp.
Yeah, and if your camp has golf carts, if you're a golf cart camp, we were, and a lot of camps are now, there's something magical about a one-on-one golf cart ride with to pick them up and make a lap around the we just make a lap around the athletic field, but you get something about sharing space, right?
I love it.
And making a point to just check in and take people for a ride during that first week or really through the whole summer, I think means a lot.
Another thing that we had set up, and it was subtle, but if anybody, for new staff members, they would be assigned a person who a senior staff member who would check in with them, and it wouldn't be announced necessarily. And, we would have worked with that senior staff to talk about what does it mean to feel welcome and what can you do to make someone feel noticed and appreciated. And then we would, they wouldn't be glued to the new person, but they would just, casually walk by and have the conversations. Or, I'm running out to the shop for something. Do you want to jump in and I'll give you a quick little tour? Kind of welcome moments. And I remember one of our staff members who eventually became our assistant director, when he joined us when he was 18, we had given two of the guys who had been there the longest and were just really creative, nice guys. We'd kind of assigned them to him. And the first night we had some time after campfire before everybody had to kind of be in their cabins together, and those two staff members took this new guy and they actually went into the kitchen and made cookies with him. And he still remembers, he still talks about that moment of just with these two guys who just sort of, he felt like he kind of been picked up and been made part of the friend circle, and they were doing this cool thing together, and he just went, this is a great place. I knew him before he got to camp and knew that it would be a challenge for him to feel like he fit in, but these two guys just just picked him up and made him part of everything, and were really subtle about it. And it wasn't until he became on staff, senior staff, several years later, that he realized that that those people had been told, we really want you to check in on Adam and make sure that he feels welcome in the first few days. And it was such a cool experience for him to have that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story as well. And I think what I'm taking away from that story is when you get into a project with people,
yeah,
so making cookies or whatever that project might be,
yeah,
it allows you to put your attention and focus on making the dough and doing the thing, but then have talk while you're doing it. It removes a layer of pressure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did every year, and this would make for some late nights for the leadership team, but it was a really useful tool for me, was especially the first night, talking about the first night, but we would do it periodically throughout staff training. But the first night we'd wrap up our fire, everybody would go to bed. Once everybody was in bed, leadership staff would meet and we would sit down, and again, it would lead for a late night, but we would go through that staff list as a team and bring up every name. So and so.
Yeah.
And talk about, as a group of us on leadership, would talk about what did we see today from that person. And that was great because different people would see some trends.
Yep.
And people would see different things as well. And so it really allowed us time to process, how are we doing with the staff? What do we think they need tomorrow that they didn't get today? Let's come up with a plan for that. And just being, to use your word, to be intentional about each one of those people and take the time to talk about them and have a plan on making sure that they're getting what they need, that they're, so-and-so was really quiet today. They didn't really talk to many people. All right, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to help them connect? Maybe they have a quiet personality. Let's connect them with somebody else who has a quiet personality. Maybe they'll feel safer next to that person. And talking through that was important for us.
Yeah. And I think as camp people, we tend to put the extroverts to the front on purpose because they're comfortable and they enjoy it. But it serves us well to be sensitive to those who are not the happy, jumpy, singy kind all of the time. To celebrate them, certainly celebrate them when they do that. But if we can be, just saying, this one seems like this person might be kind of quiet. Let's just make sure that they are connected with somebody who has been at camp a long time, but is also that thing. I think we're naturally drawn to or notice even camp counselors who are the bubbly ones who like to lead games and songs, but some of the best camp counselors are also the quiet ones, who notice the kids who are also quiet and are thoughtful with them. So I love that, just finding the taking the time to think about each person and what they need in that first week at camp.
Yeah, and I know we're about out of time, but I want to wrap up. We've been talking about the first day of camp, or first day of staff training.
Yeah.
The other thing is, how do you finish your staff training? And I just wanted to share this. We would do a staff training graduation.
Perfect.
And we loved it. And they would get a certificate that they've completed staff training. Their staff shirts would be rolled up and tied with a bow. They would get them at that graduation. There were candles. There was a little speech, a whole little ceremony that we would go through, a little graduation ceremony, to try to make it a big deal.
Yep.
And I think that's important as well. You need to recognize them for the work that they just put in. They put in staff training is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great place to leave it. Well, thanks so much, Dave. Good conversation again. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate. I always appreciate getting a chance to visit.
Right on. So for those of you watching the recording, I know that there are a few of you watching us live, but we're going to do this again in 2 weeks. And Dave and I'll have a chat and post the topic ahead of time so that you know, can anticipate what we're talking about. Maybe it feels like, Dave, we're going to talk about campers first day, because that was a topic we thought about today but didn't have time for.
Right. That sounds like a great topic.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Travis.
See everybody else in 2 weeks.